A very good evening. Speaking today, my name is Lincoln Wambugo, and language interpreter is Michael Maithia. We have a lot prepared for you tonight, but first, let's take a look at the highlights. And the question of the day tonight, are you happy with the new COVID-19 containment measures? SMS your thoughts on 111 You can also comment on our live feed on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube as Switch TV News and at Lincoln Wambugo on all my social media handles. And on other stories tonight, the nationwide curfew put up as a measure to curb the spread of COVID-19 has been extended till 3rd of January 2021. The curfew hours have also been adjusted to 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. with a special unit being in charge of enforcing COVID protocols. David Kagina with his story.
The recent spike in COVID numbers as a result of eased measures has seen President Uhuru Kenyatta, under the advice of specialists, issue new guidelines extending the curfew for 76 more days.
Now, the nationwide curfew is extended up to the 3rd of January 2021. And 8, that beginning tonight, the 4th of November, the curfew will now be enforced between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning.
In order to beat the curfew hours, bars and eateries will now be required to shut down an hour before the curfew time, while operating under strict observance of measures put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19.
All operators of hotels, restaurants, eateries, bars, and other establishments that sell alcohol on wholesale or retail terms to do all that is necessary to ensure enhanced compliance with the Ministry of Health's guidelines and protocols.
On what the head of state termed as a relaxation by the general public, a special task force will be constituted to enforce the measures to curb the surge.
I direct the Ministry of Interior to constitute a special enforcement unit to jointly enforce all COVID protocols.
David Kagina, Switch TV.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has directed that basic education classes resume in-person learning in January 2021. Uhuru, during the 13th COVID-19 national address, has reiterated that examination classes will continue with learning, but under heightened health protocols. Nyakundi Calvin with a report.
Earlier on, it had been reported that schools could in the next 3 weeks reopen for in-person teaching for 3 other classes in primary and secondary schools, but that is no longer the case.
With respect to the examination classes that have already resumed learning, I hereby order that they continue with their learning and examination preparations, but under heightened health safety measures, and with that, also order that all basic education classes resuming in-person learning in January of 2021.
Uhuru has noted that this will see the examination classes adequately prepare for exams.
I urge them to make investments that focus on additional hand-washing points in our schools, on the provision of face masks to our children, on general sanitization in our schools, as well as the physical distancing of students and teachers.
MPs have been urged to engage CDF boards to augment existing interventions geared towards the reopening of schools. Nyakundi Kelvin, Switch TV.
Thank you, Nyakundi Kelvin, for that story. Now, according to the Ministry of Health, Kenya has, in the past 8 months, recorded a total of 57,093 positive COVID-19 cases and a record of 1,039 deaths since its first case in the country. By mid-July, the government decided to relax the restrictions by reopening the economy, but the number of infections has skyrocketed. This was followed by the non-compliance with the COVID-19 measures put in place by the Ministry of Health and the WHO.
When we made the decision to reopen the country, our positivity rate had fallen from 13% in June of this year to 7% in July and to a low of 4% in September. Our COVID bed occupancy had also gone down by 60%. We had flattened the curve to below a 5% positivity rate that is recommended by the World Health Organization. And it is these factors that gave us the courage to reopen and to ease out COVID measures in order to boost our economy.
Meanwhile, President Kenyatta has banned political gatherings and rallies for a period of 60 days with immediate effect, with anyone wishing to hold such meetings told to do so in town halls while observing all COVID protocols, including limiting the attendees to 1/3 seating capacity of the hall. Joel Chacha with his report.
When President Uhuru Kenyatta eased a range of COVID-19 restrictions in September 28th, he reminded citizens that a return to one of Africa's strictest lockdown is possible in the event of a second wave. However, political leaders led by President, his deputy William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga have been on record over time holding huge gatherings where social distancing and other safety measures were largely ignored. The Health Ministry raised eyebrows to the occurrence of political events and over time urged Kenyans to avoid all forms of political and social gatherings to help fight the coronavirus pandemic, but its calls fell on deaf ears. The Deputy President, who did not want to be caught off guard, yesterday announced that he will reduce his public engagements until further notice, cancelling his weekend engagements in Cumberland. It's against this backdrop that the head of state, after convening a 6th extraordinary session of National and County Government Coordinating Summit, announced new measures in relation to the always rising political temperatures.
That all political gatherings and rallies are suspended for a period of 60 days, and this to take effect immediately. And anyone wishing to hold such meetings should do so in town halls, and in doing so, must observe all COVID protocols, including limiting the attendees to 1/3 seating capacity of the hall and the wearing of face masks.
The president, however, called on leaders to be at the forefront in sensitizing the public in adhering to COVID-19 protocols.
Hata sisi kama viongozi tumeanguka mtihani. Tumeanguka mtihani ni kwa sababu hata sisi vile tumekuwa tukijiendesha ni kama hakuna ugonjwa. Mikutano bila barakoa, kulete watu pamoja bila social distancing. Na mambo hayo yametuumiza.
With the measures being effected by law enforcers which will calm the political temperatures, it appears to be in favor of the Building Bridges initiative, in which the process of collecting over 1 million signatures within a month is ongoing. Joel Chacha, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Joel Chacha, for that story. Moving on, the national and county governments will work together in combating the upsurge in coronavirus pandemic. According to President Kenyatta, private sector should also join the government in the public sensitization campaign on COVID-19.
During his national address today at State House, President Kenyatta has called upon county governments to maintain isolation facilities in a state of preparedness through continuous capacity building for health care workers.
The national government will consult the affected county to issue localized lockdowns and movement restrictions as may be necessary.
According to the president, the national and county government will work together in combating the pandemic.
Services will not be rendered to anyone who does not abide by the Ministry of Health protocols.
Head of state also issued a stern warning to those who will not abide by the Ministry of Health protocols that they will miss public services.
Provision of adequate PPEs for healthcare workers and continuous implementation of infection prevention control measures and the provision of piped or portable oxygen.
County governments and other relevant government agencies are expected to enhance and strictly enforce all public health social measures, including hand washing, social distancing, and mandatory wearing of masks in public places. Emmanuel Terrer, Switch TV.
Thank you, Emmanuel Terrer. In his address today, the president has directed that the regulations on religious gatherings remain unchanged. However, he has directed that any indoor religious gathering other than for the purpose of funerals shall have no more than 1/3 of its normal seating capacity occupied at any given sitting, pointing out the Ministry of Health guidelines remain in force. The president, in his speech, has also directed the Ministry of Interior and Coordination to ensure strict enforcement on the same to combat the deadly virus.
That the directions governing religious gatherings remain unchanged. Any indoor religious gathering, other than for the purpose of a wedding or a funeral, shall have no more than 1/3 of its normal seating capacity occupied at a given sitting. The Ministry of Health guidelines remain in force. The Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government is hereby directed to ensure strict enforcement, and those who fail to meet those requirements will be stopped from further gatherings.
President Kenyatta has directed all public servants aged 58 years and above to work remotely, with the exemption of those who serve in critical positions. As Hadia Mosiwa now reports, no services will be offered to anyone not wearing a face mask.
In an effort to curb the increase in COVID-19 cases, all cabinet secretaries, chief administrative secretaries, and principal secretaries have been directed to scale down all government personal engagements to protect the vulnerable public service employees.
I direct that all state and public officers aged above 58 years or who are immunocompromised to work remotely. This with the exemption of those serving the nation in critical sectors.
Kenyans are now required to wear face masks at all times in order to get access to all government services.
This applies to markets. This applies to all places where public must continue to conduct service, and as I said, in the spirit of wanting to remain open. But those who fail, we will not hesitate to shut down markets. We will not hesitate to shut down public transport places in order to ensure the health and safety of our citizens.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has called upon the private sector to work hand in hand with the government in enforcing the No Face Mask, No Service initiative. Hadia Mosiwa for Switch TV.
Thank you, Hadia Mosiwa. The Ministry of Health has announced that 1,494 people have tested positive for the disease in the last 24 hours out of 8,839 samples tested. This brings to a total of more than 58 confirmed cases in the country. Meanwhile, another school has been closed in Voi after 3 teachers tested positive for COVID-19. Their teacher Mvuria Mumie has asked all the 30 teachers to self-quarantine. In a letter to the Ministry of Education, Voi Sub-County, the head teacher said that the step was taken by the rapid response team, who advised that the teachers should immediately leave school and self-quarantine.
Nilikuwa sijui chenye kinaendelea, but ilipofika saa 4:30 hivi kuna gari nilifungulia, I think ilikuwa na madaktari wakaingia.
Ni difficult, lakini tunafaa tujipe moyo, na pia pale tuko nyumbani tuendelee kusoma, pia tuendelee kufanya revision. Maanake shuleni pia tulikuwa tunafanya more revision, but venye shule zimefungwa sahii, pia pale nyumbani tuliweza kuambiwa kwa tusiende kulala, tufanye more revision, tusicheze huko nje na tujikinge.
With us, we now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. Keep on tweeting at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Umbogo on all my social media handles. Keep on sending your feedback to SMS 111 444 111 and to more stories. There have been allegations of overcrowding in some Kakamega County hospitals, with some patients being forced to return home without treatment. Some Kakamega residents claim that the medical condition has deteriorated at the Kakamega Central Hospital and are urging the county governor Wycliffe Oparanya to find a way of rescuing them during this pandemic. Meanwhile, Governor Oparanya has urged private hospital owners not to send COVID-19 patients to government hospitals. And on to U.S. elections, Democratic nominee Joe Biden is leading in 2 of the crucial swing states, Michigan and Wisconsin. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is currently leading in another swing state of Pennsylvania. Biden is currently leading in 238 electoral votes, while Trump is soaring behind with 213. Daniel Karaoke with the details.
So far, Biden has over 224 electoral votes and Trump 213. And although the counting of votes is still underway in Wisconsin, where Joe Biden is ahead by nearly 21,000 votes. Throughout much of the night, President Trump was ahead by over 100,000 votes. But now, with 97% votes reported, Biden is now in a narrow lead. However, other states to keep a close watch include Alaska, Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Georgia, as Biden leads by over 9,000 in Michigan. In a speech, President Trump claimed to have won the election and declared himself a winner and suggested votes counting to be stopped as he plans to go for petition the results in Supreme Court.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
However, earlier Biden predicted in his hometown Delaware that he would be victorious.
It's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people.
Meanwhile, 57% of women have voted for Biden, while 42% have voted for Trump. To win the White House, a candidate must win at least 270 electoral votes. That's a majority of the 538 that are up for grabs in the 50 states. The U.S. is on course for its highest turnout in more than a century, and counting in some states could continue for days. Daniel Kariuki for Switch TV.
All right, up and running is the latest from the business world. Good evening and welcome. My name is Clifford Ndubi. Now, a total of 250 billion shillings have not been remitted to the taxman, and stringent measures have been put in place to ensure that KRA hits its targets despite the COVID-19 pandemic, which has beaten revenue collection. Also, digital businesses have been targeted, where the taxman is eyeing a collection close to 5 billion shillings by 2021. So, if you're planning on evading paying taxes, you better think twice, as Kennedy Kimani now reports.
Regularizing your principal tax remittances will save you a great deal through the voluntary disclosure and compliance window period set aside by the taxman.
So this is actually the moment to regularize your tax status. If you've been hiding out there and you've not been paying taxes, make sure you take advantage of this moment, because once you pay the principal taxes using your upon voluntary disclosure, we are not going to follow you thereafter. No prosecution, no issue of interest and penalties.
Owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, revenue performance has been way below the expected target. When in the last quarter 93% revenue collection was achieved, the taxman warning that no one should use the pandemic as a scapegoat of not remitting taxes.
Out there in taxes not yet remitted. So we are looking forward to recover a significant proportion of that through this voluntary disclosure program, because we believe that Kenyans will take advantage of this. They will come and declare and pay their principal taxes, and the government is going to waive the interest and penalties.
Having hit below their tax collection threshold, there is a plan to widen the tax through tapping on the digital economy.
People who invest are responsible investors, and they have to pay the taxes that are required, because we cannot give up everything as a country and attract people, and then there's nothing we are necessarily benefiting as a country.
Even as the measures put in place by the government to cushion Kenyans from harsh economic times seems to be a key factor for low tax collection, the taxman is optimistic that they will hit their tax collection target, even as the Treasury CS Ukur Yatani sees a bleak future. Kennedy Kimani, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Kennedy Kimani. And still on matters to do with the revenue collections, it underperformed by 40 billion in the first 2 months of the financial year, that is between July and August. This comes at a time when the cash reserves are also dwindling. Some of the reasons could be Kenya's economy, which heavily relies on importing than exporting, meaning that we are not a manufacturing economy. This is one of the reasons why Kenya's shilling is trading badly against the dollar. So, why are we in this financial black hole? I spoke to Jared Ondo, an economist, and this is what he had to say.
Because we are doing a lot of imports and less exports. Then also we have paid debts with the dollars that we had, the dollar reserves that we had. And with that, there's the imbalance of BOP and BOT, balance of payment and balance of trade. There's imbalance of that. Also received, used to receive, or we do receive aid from Europe, US and other places. That aid has reduced from what we used to get. Even some donors are no longer funding because the economy is shaky everywhere. And we are not a manufacturing economy, we are a consuming economy. Things become very expensive. The life of mwananchi becomes very expensive. Fuel has increased. Yeah, respect of what is happening. The price of fuel has gone up. So basically that means that most of the things that happen, you need transport to go wherever you are. So life becomes very expensive.
Now, elsewhere, the construction sector can be targeted to lead the rebound in the broader economy. Economic history teaches us that construction sector, including housing construction, has been very effective in driving economic recovery through job creation. So how is the sector performing even with COVID-19? Let's listen in.
Focus has been more on the global clients looking for real estate solutions in Africa. So we've got a lot of the oil codes, we've got a lot of the oil codes, we've got a lot of the embassies as tenants. We do have some retail, but we don't have exposure into retail and hospitality. So our real estate has been really stable through COVID, which has been very fortunate for us. And we like to engage the local development and the local manufacturing as much as possible. So directly and indirectly, there's going to be around about 2,000 jobs that are created. And where possible, all of our procurement that we do will be done locally as well. If you look at the markets like housing, retail, definitely there's going to be effect. Offices as well, because the way that the office environment is going to change to what the new normal is going to be, which no one knows right now how that's going to be affected through COVID. But where I see growth is picking up the sectors that haven't been affected by COVID.
Right, to some immigration news now. The Immigration Department has announced a shift to e-visa effective January 1st, 2021. Passengers from countries requiring visa to enter Kenya will be expected to have documents before boarding planes. The e-visa can be found on the e-visa website. And now, on that note, we wrap up our business today. I hand you over to Lincoln Wambugu for the latest from the world of sports. Remember, the Champions League night is on tonight. Yesterday, a lot happened. Back to you, Lincoln.
Thank you, Clifford Ndubi. Now it's time to get sporty. Harambee Stars might have to play without striker Michael Olunga for their back-to-back 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying matches against Comoros. This is after Japanese club Kashiwa Reysol announced that the entire team will head into a 10-day quarantine. The 26-year-old has been impressive and has been an impressive form for his club, scoring 23 times in his many games in Japan's top flight, and his absence could be a big blow for Harambee Stars when they face Comoros next Wednesday. The first group of the foreign-based players are expected in the country tomorrow. Elsewhere, reigning European champions Bayern Munich came from behind to make their third win in the UEFA Champions League Group A games with a 6-2 triumph away to Salzburg on Tuesday. Robert Lewandowski scored a brace, taking his tally to 12 goals in 8 games this season. Take a look.
Finds the back of the net. What a start for Salzburg.
This time, Robert